Because there are so many exotics in Destiny 2, it can be hard to know exactly which ones are the best and which ones you should be using. As we all know, the meta constantly changes in Destiny, and one of the easiest ways to figure out what the meta is to look at what the most popular weapons are being used at the current time. Once you know what the weapon is, you can figure out why people are using it. As an example, the most popular exotics this season are solar-based weapons because of the seasonal artifacts that make the ignitions and scorch effects even better. So in today's video, let's cover the top 10 most used and popular exotics this season. Starting the list off with number 10, we have the Graviton Lance. Now, no matter what the season is or what the seasonal artifacts is, there is always a spot for a Void build in any class in the game, and the Graviton Lance is the best weapon to use with your Void subclass. Its amazing exotic trait Cosmology, meaning that everything you kill with this gun will explode in a massive Void surge, and then it will send out projectiles to kill more enemies. This weapon also got a huge 67% damage boost a couple seasons ago, so this is one of the most popular weapons to use. When you use this with your Void subclass and you pair in Suppression, Devour, and even Weakening, this weapon is absolutely absurd, and it's obviously going to be in the top 10 most used exotics. Moving on to the 9th most popular exotic this season, we have the Galah Horn. Now, the Galah Horn will always be in the top 10 most used exotics because of its exotic perk Pack Hunter. As we all know, Pack Hunter basically just gives all of your allies and their rocket launchers wolf pack rounds, which just massively increases their rocket launcher damage. This is a must-have weapon for all of your dungeons, raids, and fireteam based activities. We all know how the Galah Horn works. It is a must-have weapon to use if you're doing rocket launcher damage. I won't go much more on about it. Moving on to position 8, we have the Monte Carlo. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you've seen the Titan Strand build, which absolutely demolishes every boss in the entire game within a few seconds. This whole build revolves around melee damage and using the Worm God Caresses or the Syntheseps depending on how you run your Strand Titan build. This Titan build works around having massive melee energy and doing a lot of powered melee attacks, and the Monte Carlo is the perfect gun to use this with because of its exotic perk Monte Carlo method. Basically, dealing damage with this gun will slowly reduce your melee cooldown, and at every kill you get with the gun, it has a random chance of fully restoring your melee ability. So Strand Titans are basically just using the Monte Carlo to get their melee energy back to do more damage. Either way, auto rifles have been buffed so they just do more damage. The Monte Carlo feels nice and it has a fairly new catalyst, so it's just a popular gun to use at the moment. Plus, no matter what class you're playing, who doesn't want more melee energy? Moving on to number 7, we have the Wither Horde. Now, I think I can comfortably say that the Wither Horde has been in the top 10 most popular exotics ever since it's been released into the game. This is by far one of the best grenade launchers in the entire game. We all know how the Wither Horde works. It just does massive tick damage to bosses, allowing you to do more damage with other weapons, while your Wither Horde just ticks the boss away and does extra damage. The only downside to the Wither Horde is actually getting the catalyst for it, which will basically give it auto-loading holster. This one is quite the challenge. I think it's get 100 kills in Crucible with grenade launchers. From memory, this one kind of sucked and it took me a while, but it is definitely worth it if you don't have the catalyst. The Wither Horde is very similar to the Galah Horn. Basically, the way I see it is someone in your fire team should have one equipped when you're doing damage to bosses in raids or dungeons. Moving on to number 6, we have the Malfeasance. Now, the Malfeasance by itself is a pretty mid-tier exotic. However, what makes this exotic amazing is the exotic boots, the Lucky Pants on the Hunter. This little exotic wombo combo that you can get going with the Malfeasance and the Lucky Pants is actually ridiculous. This one's a little bit like the Strand Titan build. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know about this one, I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you should play some more Destiny. But if you don't know, the way it works is it basically stacks your hand cannon damage per shot that you shoot for around 9 seconds, stacking up to something crazy like 900% weapon damage increase for hand cannons. Now, the Malfeasance is great for this because it has a massive magazine size of 20 bullets, plus it also has the exotic perk Explosive Shadow, which basically just makes the bullets eventually explode the enemy, causing more damage. The Malfeasance also has intrinsic unstoppable, meaning it can stun all of your unstoppable champions, making it a great option for Grandmaster Nightfalls. So if you're a Hunter main and you haven't tried the Lucky Pants build out yet, I definitely recommend you give it a go. It's quite fun and it demolishes bosses. Getting on to the halfway mark here, number 5, we have the Wishender. Now, this is definitely my favorite exotic bow in the game, and it also seems to be everyone else's favorite exotic bow because none of the other ones are even on the list. This makes sense because the Wishender should be your first pick of an exotic bow if you're going to use one. The Wishender does massively increase damage versus some of the other bows, and not to mention it also has intrinsic anti-barrier rounds, making this bow a great option to bring into your Grandmaster Nightfalls or Master Raids. I've said it before, any any sort of exotic weapon that has intrinsic stunning capabilities already puts this exotic above all the other ones, making it a great choice to use for any exotic slot. So if you haven't took the time out of your way and gone and got your Wishender, I definitely recommend you get it. You will seriously enjoy it and you will find a lot of use out of it. Moving on to number 4, we have the Quicksilver Storm. Like I said earlier in the video, auto rifles recently got a buff, meaning they are just great to use in PvE. They do more damage, they feel nicer, and they got a little bit more range. Now, as we know, the catalyst for this gun turns it into a strand weapon, making it great for all of your strand builds, just like the Titan one. Now, as we know, dealing consistent damage with this gun will allow you to reload the weapon and load grenades into it as an alternate fire mode. These grenades do serious massive damage, up to 60,000 depending on the activity that you're in, making it a great weapon to use in Grandmaster Nightfalls because your primary weapon can do special damage as well. Now, if you do end up actually killing anything with these grenades, it will also spawn a tangle, making it great for your strand builds. Pretty much every single season we have some sort of auto rifle stunning capability in the artifact mods. This season we have overload auto rifles, making it great for auto rifle stunning. The Quicksilver Storm is very strong, and if you haven't got it yet, I would definitely recommend getting it. It is very, very good. Let's move on to the final 3 most popular exotics for Season of the Wish. Now, I'm sure you can already guess what these 3 exotics are. They work very well with this seasonal artifact mod and solar, of course. Coming in at number 3, we have the Polaris Lance. Now, the Polaris Lance has seen a massive resurgence this season because of some of the artifact mods that we have, and the fact that the Polaris Lance has been slept on for the past few seasons. Now, I'm going to tell you about the 2 seasonal artifact mods that you should be using that will work very well with the top 3 guns that I'm about to mention. The first one is the Flint Striker in the 3rd column. As it states, rapid solar weapon precision hits or solar final blows will grant you Radiant. What Radiant does is it gives you a flat 25% damage boost, which is amazing in PvE for all of your weapons. Now, the second mod, which is in the last column, called Rays of Precision. This states, while you are radiant, solar precision final blows will cause combatants to ignite. So if you think about it and you pair these 2 seasonal artifact mods with basically any solar weapon in this season, it is completely busted. Just get a couple kills or a couple headshots, you're going to become radiant, and then just get a couple more kills, everything is going to ignite and explode, spreading scorch, causing more ignitions. It's just completely busted. Now, the Polaris Lance adds onto all of this solar mayhem. Its exotic perk, the Perfect Fifth, basically operates in a way after you get 4 precision hits, the 5th bullet will be a massive solar explosive round that you shoot out and stick to enemies. This solar round will explode, deal damage, and spread scorch, adding to all of the ignitions that you were already doing. I've ran plenty of Nightfalls this season, and with 3 Guardians using the Polaris Lance and the said artifact mods, these Nightfalls are a complete walkthrough, making them extremely easy to do, and you can do them in under 20 minutes. Moving on to the second most popular exotic this season, we have the Dragon's Breath. Now, the Dragon's Breath can't exactly get precision hits and cause enemies to ignite because it is a rocket launcher, but the way you want to use this is by using a separate solar weapon like a hand cannon or an SMG, get yourself Radiant, and then you can then get a 25% damage buff when you shoot your Dragon's Breath. The Dragon's Breath does an incredible amount of damage to bosses, a little bit more than we probably thought it would actually do, but the way it does this is by applying massive scorch stacks and then causing the enemy to ignite and then deal massive damage. This season, Bungie seems to just want us to use solar weapons, cause massive ignitions, and just spread scorch everywhere, and the Dragon's Breath does that perfectly. Moving on to the number 1 most used exotic this season, you already guessed it, yes, it is the Sunshot. Now, the Sunshot is basically a mini Polaris Lance. It operates very similarly, however, in my opinion, it actually does it a little better. Now, the Sunshot's exotic perk Sunburn basically means that this gun has explosive rounds, and then its exotic trait Sunblast means that every enemy you kill will explode. Not to mention, these explosive rounds that you are shooting will actually also spread scorch around, meaning after you've killed enough enemies and spread scorch, the enemies will also ignite. So you can just see from this gameplay, the Sunshot is just absolutely absurd this season with all of the perks stacking up on it. There's not much to say about this weapon except look at the footage that you can see. This weapon is completely busted this season with everything stacking up on it. But anyway, Guardians, that will wrap the list up there. There are the top 10 most popular exotics this season, and if you aren't already using some of these exotics, I definitely recommend that you do, because they are the most popular for a reason. And if you don't have them, I definitely recommend you go and get them, because we have a long season left ahead of us. But anyway, Guardians, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to drop a like, subscribe, comment down below. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.